Forum. Kelly.
No, we do not. We're missing one.
Okay, well, maybe we'll pick up one along the way. Let's all stand here. Flag is over there. I'll pledge
Affiliated to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did anyone sign up for public comment?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay, then we'll go straight to approval of the minutes. Let's do these separately. Do we have a motion? Have you reviewed the November 18 minutes?
We don't have quorum.
Oh, well.
We can.
Maybe now.
We might have four.
Tommy.
We have quorum.
I did send it, but I don't know if I'm connected.
Oh, do we have a motion for approval of the minutes from November 18th?
I moved it for
Second,
second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And have you reviewed the minutes of February 17th? Do we have a motion for approval?
Wait.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. Presentations, FDOT report, time now.
Hello, hello. Do you have my presentation on there? Keep my here. Okay, quick agenda, just rundown of our Sun Trail updates where we're at. Let you know where we're at with our Cortez Road vision and action plan, and just talking about upcoming bike ped projects and past and upcoming events. Nothing too intensive here. Sun Trail, we know that we didn't open up a cycle, so everything that's being reviewed are all the projects that had already existed, and we have applications for in the system that had already received Sun Trail funds. So that's what is being reviewed now in this cycle, going up to central office. Quick project updates, the Bobby Jones Golf Club Circus Boulevard. That one is our lap group is working on the contract with the city, so they're hoping to get that executed in June. We'll see where that goes. So with that, the design hasn't started. The Bourneside Boulevard and Dam Road, that construction is programmed for fiscal year 30. And then another project that's not on the list that I forgot to put on there was the State Route 789 from Longboat Pass Bridge to Longboat Club Road. And that's a feasibility in fiscal year 30. So those are all looking forward. And any questions?
Bobby Jones, that's part of the project to link the Legacy Trail to Benderson?
Well, which the Bobby
Yeah,
Jones?
yes.
Yes. It's just trying to get all those little pieces put together between the city and the county.
Cool. Any questions for Tanya? Thank you.
I've got a few more to go through.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Cortez Road Vision and Action Plan. This one is winding down. So expect to have meetings with FDOT to review over the next few months of what's going on. What our timeline is now, we have had the internal review with our FDOT management. They've gone through it. That's complete. We're currently working on the edits for the report right now. And then we are planning to have meetings with the county and MPO staff for the next month or the end of this month. And these are all meetings that are gonna just be staff, not with the public like we had done before. It's just to go over what's in there and to review it and see how everyone wants to move forward. Then, once we've had those discussions, we'll do our final edits late May. And we are looking to do one-on-ones with the commissioners as they would like to in June. And then we'll submit the final report to the county and the MPO staff by the end of June. That's sort of the timeline we're on right now. We'll see where it goes. Big picture, the ideas are recommendations for wide sidewalks and separated bike lanes. But a lot of that's going to have to be coordinated with everyone, because you're gonna have land use changes and updates and how we're gonna fund it, which bits and pieces. So that's why one's a report, but that's the overall approach that was found. So, and then these are just a few potential resurfacing projects that have been going through the department that we're looking at down the road to do. So I just wanted to show you where these are located, and if you have any thoughts or requests to put in, as we are in the planning stages of it and design. So if we feel that you need any bike lanes, any additional sidewalk, anything on there, if I get input from this group to help promote it, to push it, because even though with my sitting in on all the design meetings, it's like a broken record when I keep saying, okay, we need to add this, we need to add more. If I have more local support, it helps push it a little further. So that's why I just put it out there so you know what areas are potentially coming up. It's not programmed, it's not ready to go, so don't jump on it that way, but it's like with everything with the department, we plan ahead for it, so that's what that is. And this was the only typical section I had for one of the projects, it's just giving you an idea, but there was existing sidewalks on this, so the other ones, the typical sections are still being drafted and put together. And then, just to let you know, DOT, we went out and did a site visit out on St. Armand Circle back on April 8th, and I had myself planning, and we had safety and some of our transit folks out there just to look at what's going on. I know that there's been public workshops going on with St. Armand and trying to figure that out. So that was part of what pushed it along for us. And as we all know, yes, the drainage is the problem, a large problem out there. But just when we were looking at it, we were seeing that you had problems with debris, standing water, aged infrastructure, which is all elements that we're taking into account with it, but we found some potential sidewalk slope issues where they're inconsistent, especially in front of the different stores. They had different textures, different angles. It was just not smooth at all points. So and there were a lot of ramps that ended up going nowhere, sort of crossing you into a dead end. So there's improvements to go along that. And we had one of the things that we noticed was ADA, because you have the parking ADA spots along the circle of the main roadways, but you have the drivers to open their door, that's right next to traffic. There's no way for them to functionally do that, and then to have safe access from their vehicle to the sidewalk. They're in the flow of traffic if they're the drivers. So there were little improvements that down the road we'll have to look at, because we were looking at those ADA spots. I said, how is that going to really be productive and safe for everyone? Because all the doors are opening right up into the traffic. And then one question we came up with, because we know the speed tables got put out there. We witnessed that traffic was slowing down, especially ahead of the ped crossings. It was being effective, but we've heard mixed comments on it. So as a group, I'm sure a lot of you have driven through it, and that new addition, what are your thoughts on it? Anybody?
I drive through it every day.
So what
I
do you
think they're
think?
great because
they-
they were all broken and in disarray
Right.
before and felt like half my car was involved. But I think they're great. They look great. They work great and people just cross where they're gonna cross when they're going around there. That's the only issue. I mean, people don't really follow any kind of, they just kind of walking with their ice cream cone or whatever, and they just like walking across the street, so don't know that they're really using the crosswalks.
Okay,
As far as the speed tables, I think they look great and they work. They slow the traffic down.
okay, as long as I
Making
know.
your car feel like it's gonna fall.
We don't want cars falling apart, but I know we sort of pushed that project forward and got them put in.
Yeah, I think.
So I
fantastic.
just wanted to make sure that it was effective and useful, so that's good to hear because I know there were mixed reactions from other groups. So at least I figured with
What
the,
were they saying? Just curious, cause I mean,
they said they weren't doing a thing. They didn't like them.
really?
Mhm. So we've heard, that's why I said, I just wanted to get a general feel at least from this committee, how.
I just
it was
think,
interpreted.
I've heard nothing but positive.
Good.
But, you know, they look great, they function great, so.
Yeah. Well, that's nice to hear.
So it's not like anything new.
It's a little bit of change. So as we move forward, what are your thoughts on potentially putting in ped crossings with lighted ped crossings to stop traffic? Because we were looking at it and going, would that actually make it smoother for vehicles if we slowed it for just the pedestrians to go at certain times instead of the free flow that you have with peds all the time, so cars are stopping and going, and there's no set pattern.
Right, I agree with that. I think that would be another great idea, because like I said, everybody just kind of. You have to be like on guard if you can even get around the circle at
Mhm.
4 o'clock. Because people just kind of fly out into the road whenever they want. They don't really follow any kind of crosswalk or. So if you had like a designated, I mean, maybe an enforce it. I don't know how you, if that's even
The
something you could
enforcement.
enforce.
Yeah.
You put some like walking patrols out there or bicycle patrol or something. Most effective way.
But we were there in the morning till lunchtime and we saw a mix of users out there. And bicycles as well, pets, kids, all sorts, so it's nice to see that, and they are. The ones we saw on the circle, they were pretty much using the crosswalks. The problem was when you go further off the circle, even though you have the parking on either side of the medians, there's no crosswalks to get you
Right.
there, so that was just little improvements that we were thinking
That's good.
could
That'd be
come up, so. And that was part of where we were going, and we're gonna be trying to go out and do other field visits for areas, so if anybody has suggestions or thoughts on a location they would like the department, planning group, safety to look at and see what improvements may be useful and we could all approach, let me know. So that's where that is. And that was pretty much all I have, and as always, if you have any questions, I'm here.
Tanya, I think that Brookville project resurfacing,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it certainly shows up as a high energy network. Folks see the active plan, but even Brookville has been historically a intersection with a lot of vehicular and vulnerable user crashes, I think, so. I don't know the scope of your resurfacing. I know in the county when we resurface, we don't put in new sidewalks or anything like that,
Right.
so. I don't know if on your slide it said, or you had mentioned, hey, if you have a project you want sidewalk, let us know, but.
If we can try, if it stays as a resurfacing project, there's funding for me to get sidewalk in. If it's just the pavement only, which is what a lot of our projects have been switched to, I can only go curb to curb.
So it's,
So it depends on how it gets
okay,
put in.
and you don't know how it's gonna be put in yet, okay,
We even go at it, but as I'm going through the design phase, the more I can put out front and ask for and let them know the justifications for it, it's easier if I have it designed that way. So we have those interactions within the department with all our different parts,
okay.
so. If there's certain sections you want me to look at. let me
Well, I mean, the
ask for-
whole section, really, I mean, it's got what, a 4 foot bike lane now, maybe 5, right? I mean, I think you could, you had the, you could make it more, I don't know if the
Right.
pavement's there, right? So I mean, I'll figure that out, design, but,
Yeah, because we'll look at it, it's like,
right,
are we going to take away lane widths from the motor vehicles? What can we do? How much do we have? What's the width of my median, given if you're talking Fruitville? Things like that all
Yeah.
go into the engineering.
okay,
So a lot of times planning studio, we try to recommend lane narrowing, but obviously on a lot of roadways, we have the wider lane for all the trucks and freight to go through as well.
Yeah.
And we can't narrow it as much. And then you have the problem, even if we want to put in the bike lanes, as we all know, vehicles are getting wider. So even though we have the specs in there, it still feels very close unless I have space to put in at least a buffered bike lane. So there's a lot of negotiating back and forth with
right.
what I can change.
I mean, I wonder if there's any, I mean, we could talk about this at a future day, but I know there was, at one point, the city was doing a project, but and it didn't go through, but they were looking to eliminate the bike lanes.
Right.
In lieu of a wider sidewalk, right? Sometimes that could make sense. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to this corridor, but I mean, there's high speed on Fruitville, right? I mean, I think that's just worth a discussion.
There's-
To see what people prefer.
Okay.
And, I wouldn't just assume that putting what's there now is the best option.
So until we can really redo the whole corridor, it's just, we're trying to keep it going. And then I just forgot to tell you, yes, the Florida Green Book updates are still proceeding. So that's going on. They had a good meeting this last Thursday at Turnpike with all the committees and going through their chapters. So those revisions are underway and will be coming out. I don't have a timeline from them as to when it will be complete, but I do know they're actively working on it. So that was just a little side note. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. MPO report, Nick, you're first up.
So this one's more of just FYI, a draft transportation improvement program is open for public comment till May 18th, board meeting. We're presenting a committee cycle with final adoption on May 18th. And if you would like to submit any public comments related to program projects, also you can email us or submit it on the website or attend meetings and commenting on that. So just an FYI, it's on our website. I'd like to look at it. Any questions? And see, we have Nina thanks for advancing organizations. Sure.
Good afternoon. So we wanted to take just an opportunity to update you on a planning initiative that we kicked off in December. This has had a very short timeline. So it kicked off in December, we're ending in June. And we are taking this to the MPO board in May for approval. I want to present sort of an overview of what we're doing, where we are to date. We'll also present this to the Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee as well with additional information, and then it'll go to the board. So I'll open up to questions or comments or observations, anything that you might want to add at this point. So the new initiative is advancing organizational safety culture, and the purpose here is to develop a shared vision and expectations for safety, embed safety as a core value in organizational processes and everyday decisions. The final deliverable is a strategic safety improvement plan, which is something very different from our safety action plan that sort of looks more at an implementation of safety through the 6 E's, the 6 strategies, whereas with advancing organizational safety culture, we're really taking a look at the organization itself and our internal processes and how that then informs the planning and the programming and the coordination. So our current milestone, we just received the draft improvement plan last week. So we're not ready to share that just yet, but we'll have an update of that on the TAC and certainly at the FAO board meeting as well. Then we'll take it to the board in May 18th. So as a planning initiative, this is something that is couched within the Destination Zero Safety Action Plan that was adopted back in 2022. Since 2022, we've updated the crash assessment, we've worked on our high injury network, we've worked on an education implementation plan and try to roll that out. And then in early 2024, we had this invitation from Federal Highway Administration saying, hey, we are working on a organizational safety culture self-assessment tool, and we're getting ready to wrap it up. We're inviting agencies across the country to pilot this with us to see how it's working. So they reached out to Sarasota, Manatee, and PO. We hosted a workshop at our office, and it was very interesting, right? We weren't really quite sure what we're getting ourselves into, but it certainly shed some light on this new concept of organizational safety culture. And we walked away with a lot of food for thought. So come 2025, we had some additional funds available. We said, why don't we pick up what we learned at this workshop and really invest in this organizational safety culture concept? Let's do our due diligence and take a look at what the safety culture of the organization is and how we can improve that so that we can make sure that we have clear alignment and for implementing our safety action plan. So what is organizational safety culture? When we're thinking about culture, right, it's all about the way that we're thinking, what we're doing, that is very routine, very everyday, sort of taken for granted. And so safety culture is not a statement. It's not our vision is 0 fatalities and serious injuries. It's everything that goes into making that happen. So safety culture is a pattern of decisions that gets us to 0. Florida Highway or Federal Highway Administration describes organizational safety culture as having these two interconnected components. The one is internal safety culture and the other is programmatic safety culture. So we're taking a look at the internal side and through the improvement plan, it'll help inform the programmatic purposes as well. Some of the key milestones to date so far have been looking at the organization and doing sort of that self-assessment. That included reviewing our plans and policies, our safety activities and initiatives. The White House staff, our consulting group, came into the office and they did interviews with the MPO staff and sort of did a site visit. The purpose of the site visit was sort of to see how does safety show up in the office, and we had just moved in, there was nothing here. But nevertheless, it was an opportunity for them to talk to us. Then we also did a state of the practice review to see what are other agencies across the country doing. And then we hosted a stakeholder workshop here just last month. I see a lot of familiar faces. I think half the room was probably at the workshop. So thank you for attending. And the purpose of the workshop was defining a vision, clarifying roles and responsibilities, and then thinking towards prioritizing strategic actions and who is responsible for those actions. So some of the key takeaways from the organizational assessment were put into this SOAR analysis framework of what are our strengths, where are our weaknesses, what opportunities can we explore, and what risks kind of do we need to minimize. To the left here is really what you saw, what came out of the interviews and the plans and program review. And on the other side are those larger themes. So from the strengths perspective, the key takeaway was that we have a very strong framework and a very strong foundation. We are doing things about safety, right? Safety is a part of the conversation. And so that we have that momentum. And so we have the opportunity to keep pushing that momentum forward. On the weaknesses side, really, we don't have a defined safety culture or a vision statement attached to our safety culture. One of the things that was very interesting with staff interviews when consultants asked, like, oh, well, when you think about safety culture, what is it? And our response was, oh, destination 0 fatalities and serious injuries, which is great, right? Because that's our foundation. But just because we have a safety action plan doesn't mean there is a safety culture, and you can have a safety culture without the safety action plan. So that prompted us to also take a closer look. We want to sort of explore opportunities with the partnerships that we have in place, where are new partnerships that we can establish. We know that staff training and partner training is absolutely essential. And we want to make sure that as there is turnover and new staff joining the MPO, that these values are really also embedded in the training of new staff so that the program is continued over time. From the state of the practice review, if you've attended any sort of conference in the past or talked to any of our peers, we know that there's a clear shift in the way that safety is being approached in the transportation world, where there's a clear move from more informal practices around safety towards formalizing them, integrating safety as a governing constraint, looking at safety policies and putting those in place. And there's a shift from just looking at crash history to addressing the systemic risks within the system and addressing those. But when we wanted to look at agencies across the country that are actually addressing organizational safety culture, we really weren't able to find a peer, at least not yet. Certainly the literature around organizational safety culture is wide. You can spend the next couple of years reading about it, but we haven't really found another transportation agency that's looking at organizational safety culture. So it puts us in an interesting place. Because we're sort of trailblazing, but at the same time, we don't really have a benchmark to see what we're doing, which is a cool place to be in, not necessarily a bad thing. And then from the workshop, we developed the initial thoughts of what a vision for organizational safety culture for the organization would be. And the 4 themes that came out of the workshop when we talked about the vision was first this idea that everyone gets home safely. And if we prioritize safety for our most vulnerable road users, then this system is safer for all road users. Second was that this transformative safety culture mindset is going to be key. Changing outcomes begins with changing the way that we're thinking about safety. Third was making sure that we're preventative rather than reactionary, so being proactive. And then 4th was shared accountability. So, safety is not a responsibility of one agency or one role, but it's rather a shared responsibility of all people who are working in the realm or the universe of transportation safety. So it's my responsibility as much as it is your responsibility. And if there's shared accountability, that means that we can trust that the safety work that we're doing here will be carried over also in the work that you're doing. And that translates also ideally to our elected officials and our community champions, and so forth. So these were the 4 themes that came out of the workshop when we talked about the vision. Both of those memos are included in your packet, so you can do a more deeper dive into what we've heard and what we found. But the last page of the workshop memo offered these sort of sample vision statements that came out of the workshop. They all sort of say the same thing in different ways. It was challenging because how do we take this very big idea of roadway safety and safety culture and really give it to you in a tidbit, bite-sized, sellable piece? So we've been playing with the idea. It is just in a draft form at this point. We'll take it to the board. They'll have some input as well. But our very own Nick kind of summarized this one here on the left, which is to foster a proactive safety culture that guides regional decision-making, involves our local communities, and affirms the shared responsibility of ensuring that everyone gets home safely. So again, it's sort of a draft, but this is what we have following the workshop and what we heard to date. So our next steps are to review and finalize a draft of that improvement plan. We also want to develop a communication strategy that's multi-pronged, that looks both at outreach as well as involvement, and also focuses on coordination with our partners as well as having an education piece. So we can by that, by having a communication strategy in place, having that roadmap, this is also something that other agencies can take and adopt, but also it's something that staff can look at and say, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is what's going to help us implement this improvement plan and our safety action plan. So we'll take it to the TAC and CAC on May 11th, and then to the governing board on May 18th. And you'll hear more about the improvement plan at those meetings if you are there. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Is Destination Zero unique to Sarasota Manatee MPO?
The name Destination Zero is, but we also know it as Target Zero at the state level and Vision Zero, which is more of a global campaign. But they all sort of speak to the spirit of reducing roadway fatalities and serious injuries.
If you authored that report, it's very comprehensive, well-written and understandable. So I salute you.
I did not write that report, but I will pass that.
Well, your presentation was as well.
Thank you, thank you.
Any questions for Nina? Thank you.
I have one. I've been a part of the MPO for many years. And this is something that I'm listening to. We talk about safety. We talk about trying to make a safe community, but we don't have any public service announcements on TV. So the population here, unless somebody else can give me a better idea how we get the message out to the public. I think as the MPO, we should probably start doing some series of public service announcements to give to the public what we're doing as a metro planning organization and how people should try to make destination zero for our entire community area. Is that something the MPO has even looked at, is doing public service announcement?
I think that's great feedback, and I agree. Especially if we talk about safety with shared accountability, the public and the community is a core part of that. We have been trying to get our safety education videos off the ground. We post those to YouTube and our social media. And we can certainly expand that to have a more public service announcement element to that as well. So take a look at them if you haven't seen them, share them on your social media if you've got it.
Well, let's just say the public doesn't look at social media. They only look at TV. That's why I'm throwing this out here, because, you know, a lot of us use social media, but let's just say the average person that's walking, cycling, whatever, and they don't even know what we're doing. So I'm just wondering if a public service announcement would be an advantage to getting it more out to the public instead of just us having meetings and talking about what we're trying to do without the public knowing what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, we can build that into the communication plan. I'll take that back to our consulting team as well. But I'd love to hear what everyone else has to think about that as well.
I think you'd have a lot of ambassadors to your point, the bike clubs that we have in Sioux County. So you have a lot of people on the ground already come up with a strategy that we could share with the bike clubs. That would be easy and cheap way to get the message out. Page summary, you just distribute it. Yes. Or as part of the monthly newsletter.
I'd like to add that, you know, FDOT has a massive campaign on TV. Concerning the Arrive Alive, Drink and Drive, could expand it like that as well, and say, yes, the MPO certainly looking at doing that, with a very small budget in comparison to state Department of Transportation. They are a great resource for radio, TV, social media outlets in terms of this messaging. So we can certainly work closely with the department to make sure that our messaging is aligned to help them reach a much larger group.
Part of the problem now is that 20 years ago, you contact the radio station, TV station, they would bring messages out.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Sure,
You've got dozens of avenues now that you have to reach.
So yeah, it would require a much larger communications and distribution plan that the state's pretty, I'd say, adept at this point.
And the
Everybody's
state's
stakeholder.
been doing well because we do Facebook posts, they have Twitter, they've been getting out there and trying to get the message for us. And I'm sure hopefully everyone's seen it on TV and that we even have playlists and things to try. So there's different avenues that are going on, but I think it might be on a local level for what the MPO could help with, and I know when you go to other community events, is sharing more of the safety knowledge as well, just showing that the MPO does a large part of it, because I think many of the public don't understand the hierarchy of how things work, and they honestly wouldn't know what the MPO does. So sometimes just saying, yes, we are at the forefront of your safety for how you get around could be something that will help with your messaging as well as obviously working with the department.
Absolutely.
Questions or comments? Okay, Nina. You're up again.
Too late. I didn't realize where the camera was.
Was blocking.
Yes, she was.
So I just wanted to give an update on our locus access. We've mentioned this, it's a new software package that the MPO has and is able to share with partner jurisdictions. It's essentially a data platform with that basically comes down to 3 tools, locus truck, locus person, and then locus perform, which is hosted on TomTom Move. And this is available to any of our jurisdiction partners. A lot of you have probably heard about it through other meetings, but if you would want access, please reach out to either me or anyone at the MPO and we can get your email added to it. And we actually just recently received a short write-up kind of detailing use cases for the tool and the differences between the different tools that I just listed. Obviously, Locus Truck is focused on kind of commercial GPS units. It's used by a lot of freight. So you can look at origin, destination, bottlenecks, all of that sort of thing. And then with Locus Person, it's based off smartphone data, and you can look at walking, biking, and motorized traffic at the census block level. And as I said, it's open to all partners. We're still kind of getting our feet wet with it. But if it's something that your agency would be interested in, feel free to reach out and, utilize a shared resource that will hopefully help planning and safety efforts throughout the region. And with that, we'll send out the write-up that we recently received. It was yesterday, so it didn't get in the packet, but I'll take any questions about Locus. Seeing none. We have some, next agenda item is regional trail updates. So first of all, thanks to everyone who submitted slides detailing trail updates within their jurisdiction. And even if you didn't submit slides, if you have verbal updates you'd like to share, that would also be appreciated. It's a really good opportunity to get everyone in the in the same room and talking about their experiences with trails and what's going on. Just seeing everyone's slides coming in separately and then kind of looking at how they all feed into a regional network. It's very interesting and will be an interesting lightning discussion. So first up, we have Longboat Key, Jen.
Which one?
That's the right one.
Okay, this will be pretty brief because we're just kind of getting started with this. But just for some background, Longboat Key is proposing a 10-mile trail route that's already been identified in the Sun Trail Network. You can kind of see it in the red there. We've consistently been asking DOT for something like this because that's the condition of many of the sidewalks. If you look at that picture at the bottom, and many people on the island use biking, they walk, they use those sidewalks all the time, and I think it would be a very well received project. So right now, the primary way that would be funded would be through the TA funds, if DOT was going to participate, and the town would have to do a PD&E in order to access those. So we did see this in the project priorities that the MPO sent around a couple months ago at the end of February. And it was part of what was adopted, when was that, March, April, somewhere around there. But it would just be for the PD&E, as no funding date for construction had been identified. So just a little background on some of the communications the town leadership has had with DOT leadership. Our town manager and assistant town manager had met with Jamie Driggers, Nicole Mills. And the key takeaways, which you guys are probably already aware of all this, is, the PD&E must be completed in 18 months. And once the PD&E is done, we have 8 years to construct. But there has been some discussion within the town about going a different route and maybe doing some feasibility studies and breaking some of the whole 10 miles apart and tackling maybe a couple miles ourselves with our own funding. That's still in the works. We don't really have any final word on that yet. So at a January 20th commission meeting, town commission workshop, that's where that was discussed. And like I said, breaking it up into little feasibility studies that can, at the point where we need to do a PD&E, those feasibility studies could feed into that PD&E. That's one option that's being explored. Not, like I said, nothing's been decided yet. of how we're going to proceed. That's really all I have. Oh, there was one more thing. So we did ask our citizens in our annual survey how they feel about the trail, a 12-foot wide multi-use trail, and there was a 50-50 kind of response. So about 50% of the people were in support of it, which I think is a huge number for a survey. And it's just, I mean, if you drive up and down Longboat Key during this time of year, there's so many people on the sidewalk, biking, walking, because you know, they're on vacation or they're here for the winter. So that's really all I had. I don't know if anybody has questions about what's going on in Longboat Key. So happy to answer anything. And it was quick, but not much going on.
Did the respondents that said no give you an indication why they wouldn't want it?
It was just a kind of a yes or no question.
Because I guess the thing I noticed is that,
Money, probably they think they have to pay for it. But
right,
if I were to guess.
so your question was like 12-foot, right?
Yeah.
But then some of your project scope is 10, so I didn't know if that would change their mind, right? It's like in your earlier slide said 10, proposed 10-foot,
10 mile, that was a
Oh, 10 miles, oh.
10 mile.
10 miles, so about 12-foot total.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we can, that was a question I had, whether we could do like a 10-foot wide trail and a 6-foot bike lane. But I don't think that we can do that. I had asked Tanya that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about it earlier. I said, if we're going for Sun Trail
Yeah.
funds, can't. If you're
Yeah.
gonna use other funds, that's, as long as it meets standards and specs of
Yeah,
wire separation, then that.
yeah,
But you can 10 if you have constrained.
If you have constraint, you have to get
Right.
approval from the
Yeah.
chief planner.
what was that? I couldn't.
Yeah, a half mile at 10 feet. If you're constrained, you can also, if you have a bike lane on the adjacent roadway,
Mhm.
you actually have 8 foot. You can have that qualify as well.
For Sun Trail?
Yeah,
That's not for like the whole, it couldn't just.
you're not for the whole thing. It's in,
It's just.
Yeah.
Street. Half mile max.
yeah, they're not.
The only area where I can think of where there'd be an actual constraint is where the mobile homes are. I don't know if you, right, where the county line changes from Sarasota to Manatee, there's a constraint there with the mobile homes right there. So I don't know of any other.
So did the town assign any funding to this, or that's still?
We do have a little bit of funding assigned to it in fiscal year 26, and then we're gonna put a little bit more in for 27 if it gets approved. Or doing feasibility study type thing.
So you think you'll go the feasibility route first?
It hasn't been
initially?
decided yet, but
Okay.
I think that would be a good idea, just to show that we're really interested in doing this and everyone's
Okay.
supporting it, town commission, town management, residents, but that's to be determined, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, if they did say no, why? 23% said no, some said unsure. Maybe they don't really get out, not everybody
don't
does
use it.
get out. Maybe some people aren't mobile. That could be it too. They could just be kind of, sitting in their, kind of homebound sort of thing and it wouldn't really impact them at all. But for the most part, if you drive up and down the island, there's so many people just out there riding bikes and walking dogs and it's great.
Thank you, Jen. Is there, do you have any other questions for anyone, or does anyone have questions for Longboat Key? No. If we have Manatee County.
Okay, hi, I'm Augustina from Manatee County. I'm the bike ped coordinator. We've got Justin Rourke, who is from Public Works Department. I'll do the presentation, and if there are questions, we can try and answer together. He oversees the trail implementation program. So we've got like I've just got 3 sides and 3 sections that we've got a little bit of update on. This one is in northwest part of our county. It's in Rye Preserve. So It's divided into 4 phases, which is 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. The project started in 2019. There have been some changes to alignment. County finally settled for a particular alignment. The project is designated to create a ped bike trail connection from Rye Crossing in the north to Waterline Service Road in the south. And the sections are sort of numbered. From top to bottom, 1, 2A, 2B, and then 3. So the project is currently on dual tracks with phases 1, 2A, and 2B in design phase, expecting 100% design by June. Phase 3, which is the bottom section, is currently under design review by the contractor and expecting to start construction within the Q2 of this year. Anticipated next step, a programmatic construction approach has been applied, starting with phase 3 and then proceeding 2A, 2B up to 1. So we're sort of going from bottom up to top as far as construction goes. So that's it on the Greenway Trail. The other one is Palmetto Trails Connectivity Mobility Project. This one's sort of around the Lincoln Park. This project is based, you want to add something, Dustin?
That's going on. Section.
Okay, yeah. So this project is based off FDOT's Palmetto Trails PD&E study. The project is currently in request for quotation phase, assessing the best path forward for design services. Funding is available to proceed through a federal community funding award. Anticipated next steps is design within 12-month timeline to design connection from MLK Trail to Lincoln Tunnel and then north to 17th Street West, which is sort of there's no pointer in here, but sort of the top right corner, that's where it will head. And then the next one's Palmetto Parish PD&E study. This project was created in 2019 to create a link between the west and east county north of the river. Basically, okay, so this is the work. Okay, there we go. Basically, it's trying to get a connection between the 2 red dots or stars that you see on the maps, which is a link between Washington Park and Palmetto to the Railroad Museum in Parish. It is currently under RFQ for PD&E, which is being actively solicited, and we're anticipating the award and probably county commissioners, the board's approval in August this year. This phase will evaluate all options, including rails to or with trails, to determine if it's feasible. And then the next steps would be once the PD&E study is completed within the 18-month timeline, there will be a planned segmented approach to both land acquisition and construction. Yeah, any questions? We can try to answer if you've got any questions.
How long would the first and third two? The Gateway Greenway Trail, roughly.
Well, it does say it is on 2.6.
Okay, and how about this, when, if this were to,
I can't say for certain because we don't know what's the actual route
Right.
gonna be. There's some obstructions along the way. It could be kind of a straight shot, but then you could have to dip over, go to Mendoza, kind of. So we don't, it's like 20 miles.
like, roughly?
What's going on up there?
I was not. Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Well, for-
I'll be covering North Portland's update today because city wasn't able to make it. So they just had this one, which we're pretty well familiar with, the Legacy Trail connection to Warm Mineral Springs. It's a 1.7 mile connection from Legacy Trail to Warm Mineral Springs. The design is complete and the route is set, but the main hurdle is a $3.4 million funding gap. Yeah. And North Port said they are actively pursuing this project and recently submitted a $450,000 recreational trails program grant to try to close some of that gap. And it's this project is on the city's capital borrowing list, and they're planning to go back to Sun Trail for the next cycle. And that's all I have for Northport. If there's any questions, I can pass it on to them to answer, or do our best to answer what we know about the project.
I have a question. You have a question? Well, they, for years, they've always had like this Maca Greenway master plan, which would connect the Maca Creek Environmental Park down to wherever it goes. It goes south, but they had built some of that, and I think there's some gaps there, but I'm just curious if they, from the city's perspective, they're ever prioritizing that greenway system.
I can chat.
I can probably help with that. So this is our priority trail project right now. There are some gaps still in the Greenway Trail. The one that was recently completed was maybe a couple years ago from Appomattox to Price Road.
Yep.
That's a great piece. We love that. We understand there's some others, but this is our priority project for trails currently in the city of Northport.
Do you have design done for that, do you know, or what's?
On the Greenway?
Yeah, the greenway.
Boys, I think there's some older designs and I think we probably have to refresh those, update those.
Your design's complete on this?
I'm sorry,
The design's complete?
it's completed, yeah.
I remember at one point there was some plans to maybe tie into the Warm Mineral Springs to the north end of that. Did that go anywhere? Like, is that new route goes down to, what is that? That's not Ortiz, is it? No. It goes along the roadway there on the south. Like,
Yeah, right now that's as far as we've developed to that piece there. There was some other designs further south there,
right.
I believe, but
I think at one point where the green line ends and the red line starts, instead of going down, it went to the left and tied into the.
right, I think this was the new design.
Okay.
They brought it through the Warm Mineral Springs properties and
Yeah.
made it more simple for us to get through there.
Thank you. I mean, did I do a good job summarizing it? I didn't realize someone.
Anthony wasn't here, so.
Then for city of Sarasota, Corinne wasn't able to make it today, and just reading these slides, I have a chance to get it. They have the Alderman Multi-Use Recreational Trail. Some history and background is the city of Sarasota received a grant through the Recreational Trails Program in 2022. Its current phase and status is that construction was completed in December of 25, and the equipment cutting was quite recent at March 31st, 2026. The anticipated next steps are representatives from FDEP will verify the trail for reimbursement. And then tying into connectivity with a lot of the different trail projects going on, US 301 pedestrian hybrid beacon. The background on this is that the city of Sarasota worked with FDOT on their US 301 resurfacing project to include a pedestrian hybrid beacon crossing to connect the recently completed Alderman Mert, which was previous slide, and it will serve as a connector to the Legacy Trail, to that trail. Current phase / status is that the construction will begin in fall of 26, and the city is working on completing the sidewalk design to complete the full connection at the same time. And then the other trail that they had was the Circus Trail extension. The City of Sarasota is extending the Circus Trail, connected to the Legacy Trail through Bobby Jones Golf Club to connect to 17th Street Park in Sarasota County. This segment is part of the larger Gulf Coast Trail Network. The current phase is that the design variation was approved and it's 30% design is in progress. Anticipated next steps are completing that 30% design and working with FDOT through the lab program to complete 100% design before construction funds become available for the program. And that was it for the City of Sarasota. Are there any questions or comments that we can try to answer ourselves or forward on to Corinne? Seeing none, next up is Sarasota County.
Okay, see here. Okay, so I think the first few slides are kind of just highlighting some things that have been done this year. If you were here earlier, the CTST, I think Danny was talking about the bifurcation of the trail. Essentially, the pictures kind of tell a story there where we have Legacy Trail, the 14-foot extension, but the bifurcation was I was at the ribbon cutting, someone's like, I'm just gonna call it the divided trail because bifurcation is kind of a technical word, but a split trail, okay? So you see the trail there on the left there where there's some people walking. It's a 6-foot trail, separates pedestrians from the main traffic on the trail. There's a lot of heavy traffic on there. There's some less traditional bikes and some modern bikes on the trail now. So there's a side path for people to walk on. That particular section there was that we built was a 1.5 mile segment. And then there's 2 additional phases that were planned to also have bifurcation down to Sawyer Loop. Design is complete for both segments, but construction is not identified yet. The phase 1, the phase that you see here, the 1.5 mile is about 500,000. So is your per mile cost there of what we're looking at, but design's done, and the plan is to bifurcate it down to Sawyer Loop. So that's up and coming. The Beneva sorry, I don't have the context maps for you, but this particular trail, there used to be a 5-foot sidewalk in some Beneva, high traffic road, no bike lanes, the 5-foot sidewalk, Friends of Legacy Trail, Gulf Coast Foundation. Did the Sarasota Manatee Bike Club contribute to this? I can't remember. I think, but there's some financial conditions. Anyway, I think, yeah, they're involved. And this is an example of a private-public partnership that, in the future, to utilize these partnerships, we can really accelerate how projects get done, how quickly they get done, because in government, there's a lot of barriers and what people call red tape. When you have a private partner who comes in and applies for the permit, it seems to be a lot quicker. So the Trust for Public Land kind of helped us with that. And we turned this 5-foot sidewalk into a 10-foot multi-use path that connects to Legacy Trail to Fruitville right at the base of the city's Circus Trail. So right now you can travel this and get to go north, which I'll talk about later. So let's, we're sticking on the theme of the Legacy Trail. Some of the things we're working on. The trail, if you go down south, we have 1, 2 overpasses in the original section, Laurel Road and US 41. In the newer section now, we have built overpasses, Bank Step DOT on Clark and Bee Ridge. And now the county, we're undergoing 3 separate design projects at Beneva, Bay Vista, and Tuttle. So they're all currently in various stages of design. The Bay Vista Beneva are estimated design completion in 2027, and the Tuttle one is currently in the consultant evaluation process. So we're going through that, and we need to seek funds for future years for construction. But I think we've demonstrated, the trails demonstrated that these overpasses are important, particularly when they cross thoroughfare roads. So we'll just keep going down that path and churning them out. And then this is the 17th Street Nathan Benderson section. This ties into the city's Circus Trail as part of the Sun Trail network, but this is 17th and Honore to Nathan Benderson. And you can see down in the left quadrant there of the aerial is the 17th Street Regional Park. That's currently being redeveloped by our Parks Recreation National Resources Department. It should be open, I think, at the end of this year. And then what that will do is that will connect north on 17th, 12-foot wide multi-use path, up Monterey to Nathan Benderson and connect right into the park where we're going to be hosting, like, I think World Championships coming up, very international venue and things like that. And what that's going to do, though, is also going to connect to this North Sarasota multimodal connector with the interstate, which is right adjacent to Nathan Benderson Park. You can see on the left there, the aerial, you can see Nathan Benderson, where they do the rowing facilities, that body of water. This overpass is going to cross I-75, and it's going to have multi-use path on it, bike lanes, but really it's going to kind of really connect our overall trail network into Lakewood Ranch and up to Manatee County. So the trail network is, you know, if you just, you know, we have a lot of trail networks, but if you want to just follow the Legacy Trail down from the Venice Train Depot, even into Northport, right? It'll get you all the way to Manatee County line by doing this. So right now the design is complete. I think there's just a few right-of-way land issues going on, but I think there's the light at the end of the tunnel for that. And then the rough order of magnitude is 40 million for this project. Construction has not been identified yet, so we continue to look for that, but it's not just a pedestrian bridge. It actually has vehicle lanes on it too, right? So the big cars will cross over 75 into Lakewood Ranch, and it'll sort of be a different way to get, instead of using University and Fruitville all the time, you could actually use this section as a connection to Lakewood Ranch. So important connection. So tomorrow, if you're tuned into the Sarasota County Board of County Commissioners, there's a particular meeting going on about the transportation that our director is going to present to the board. It's going to talk about a lot of items about our roadway network, where the funding landscape and things like that. But what I wanted to bring from that presentation here was what we call a 7 Connect. And 7 Connect's a broadly themed program that the county's doing about the 7 big major projects that are happening the next 5 years in the county. I want to highlight the ones that have trail systems on it, because a lot of it is expansion of a roadway network. So, you know, we can look at these. So the right side is the north end of the county, and the left side is the south end of the county. You can see them numbered there. Most of it's happening east to, almost all of it's happening east of I-75, right? So you can imagine some of the congestion we're having on I-75. You know, a couple years ago, maybe 8 years ago, we did expand Honore Avenue down by Laurel as sort of a relief valve. And I think now we're looking at Lorraine, right, to get from all the way from Knights Trail, Laurel up to the county line in some cases. So just going to highlight some of these. So we're going to go in order in a bit here. Okay, so let's talk about Fruitville Road widening. So this is from Fruitville, from DeBrecken to Lorraine, kind of, if you've ever been out to the Bob Building, what we call in Sarasota County, at that light there, kind of goes down to 2-lane road. But here we're looking at widening to 4-lane road, including sidewalks, bike lanes, lighting, things like that. Design is complete. $30 million construction cost estimate. Construction start in late 26, early 27. So that's what you'll be hearing about for this section. Again, if you want to know more about Connect 7, I'd probably encourage you to tune in either online to the meeting tomorrow, where our director will be giving probably more details than what I'm giving to you today about the status of these projects and things like that. So tune in if you're interested. So wait, that was Fruitville to Lorraine. Okay, so now we're Lorraine north. So now we're looking north-south, right? So Fruitville to Palmer, we'll start with that section, 2-mile road, 4-lane divided road. Again, sidewalks, bike lanes, in some cases, most cases, right, lighting. Again, plan for design completed in, you know, close, mid-26, construction starting in late 27. And just connecting that roadway, right? So we're looking at a road for vehicles and bicyclists, pedestrians, connecting all the growth that's happening east of 75. Sorry about the maps, it looked better on my screen at the time, but, okay, so we're looking at Lorraine, now we're looking south. Extension Clark to Knights Trail, right? Again, same kind of deal, right? 4 lanes, we're looking at including all the bike ped facilities that we need up there, and that we can fit. Various stages of construction complete, design complete, but you can see the segments there, like segment A is at the top part, that's already built. That was built through the Sky Ranch development, some of that section. And then you get down to segment B, which design is complete, construction will start in 26. And then segment C, we're gonna go further down, design complete, construction late 26. So you can see, 20 million, 70 million, where these are high-end projects that are coming through to have that local network. Now sort of shifting back up, we're looking at Bee Ridge Road. There's a section of Bee Ridge Road from, I think, Bentry to, what does that say, Lorraine? Lorraine, so what's that?
I think they all go to the same road.
Yeah, right. So right now, that the left side there, Bee Ridge, it is a 4-lane, but then it tapers down to a 2-lane road. So again, we're looking to widen that section and include bike lanes. So you can see how we're starting to connect our network here. So that again is construction to be determined. But guess that's all I have for that right now. I thought I had a more accurate date there, but okay. Again, and then Laurel Road, Laurel again stops a 2-lane road, but then we're working with the city to widen this to 4 lanes. Again, putting bike lane sidewalks. There's a county park down on that south end there that's going to be built. That's going to connect this. So we're just looking again to make those connections. Construction will begin this year in the summer. And then let's talk about River Road. River Road, let me see, actually, let's go to this is the north section here. Various stages of 6-lane and 4-lane segment, but I guess the cross section here is to tell you that there's gonna be 10-foot wide multi-use paths on both sides. So no on-road bike facilities, but the off-road component is there. But that will connect, that's 41, that's I-75 to US 41, right? So then this map here is south of US 41. And again, we're connecting River Road down to the county line there. So 4-lane again, and design is complete again this summer in 26. Construction start in 27. $88 million. Big ticket items again, but the growth down there is expanding. That blue part includes improvements on Winchester Boulevard. Winchester has a multi-use path on it, connects all the way down south. So see what's going on. And the last piece is East Minnesota Beach Road. So the east-west connection here. That yellow line is the line that we are talking about, the new 2-lane road. Bike lane sidewalks. The orange part is existing. The blue part is going to be built by West Villages, and the green, I believe, is existing. Yeah. So that's down South County. So just some other things I wanted to make bullet points of, and we did talk about that at the City of Northport's presentation, but we do continue to review the plans with them. The county did have some contribution to that process, and I think we had some money for design, or we had it mainly designed and we handed it over to the city to wrap up a little bit of it. So our fingerprints are on there a little bit. So it's under review through our PDS department. I don't know if that's advanced since then, what's on here, but and then this year we are going to initiate an update to our Sarasota County Bike Ped Master Plan. We're just developing a scope for that right now. We can come back later at some point to this group and provide updates on that. And then lastly, we're engaging with the Trust for Public Land on feasibility extending the Lakes Trail north of Fruitville Road into Newtown up to the University Manatee County line. There's a lot of political, I would say, momentum there to look and see how we can get that trail done. Trust for Public Land's really, they really want to start having these connections built and done. So I think they're engaging with some of the political leaders in Newtown, like Carolyn Mason, to sort of spearhead the momentum of a trail going through that north section, and what it would mean to that community in terms of transportation, access to facilities and things like that. So a lot going on the east side of 75, some stuff going on the west side, and a lot of things going up the trail. And I think that's all I got. So.
Wow. Lot going on. Thank you for those reports. They're excellent. Good news. What's around the table, Rich?
Pass.
Pass. Officer?
No.
Seth? Any more? Good.
I'm good.
Thank you.
I just, a couple of us about, a couple of us on this bike club did 6 trails in 6 days. In northern Panhandle, in the Florida Panhandle and Ocala and Gainesville. And none of those trails were the equal of Michigan Ocean Trail, which repeated over and over by all the riders. So we really appreciate trails in the area. I think that the other trails, they could caution contact folks who realize how to make it work. So anyway, any other business to come before the group? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just go for a drive.
Section from like trails and things like that. Nice.